Hi, I'm Rigger. This is You Are Right, and believe it or not, this channel isn't actually dead. It's just on a little hiatus while I work on big things. I can't be more elaborate than that just yet. But we have all this extra RWBY content coming out, so let's talk about it real quick. I know that I haven't talked about the animatic yet. I did plan to. It kinda didn't happen. I still might talk about it in the future, we'll see. But for now, we have our first episode of RWBY Beyond, and while it's obviously a shorter form thing, these are listed as as canon. So even though the beginning starts out as a bit of a comedy skit, we do learn some things. And while this show is heading for a hiatus that could last possibly forever, we don't know, it is interesting to see where we are leaving things. And anyone who's still invested in the series who wants to do fan work or anything like that, there are some little things we can pull from this, and all these details just add to the world, you know? And it might not be a world that we get to revisit a lot anymore. And if I'm honest, I actually kind of liked it to start out as a comedy bit. Obviously, the junior detectives thing was really only around in Chibi, except for, like, it alluding to where that episode first popped up with the badge. But putting it here as, like, their front, that after being caught, this is just how they're presenting the story. And also the fact that at the beginning they say that it was yesterday, so they're still in denial, they're still in rough shape, they're still at the what happened phase, not the giving up phase, which I do think is a cool approach and does make sense. Before we talk about more details, I do like that despite these being clearly rushed, like these are projects they're trying to get out right before the company closes, I do like some of the little details in here that are just nods for us. Just cheeky things like, look, the lockers are here. I don't know if Shade has those lockers and if that makes sense, but it doesn't matter. Let's say all Huntsman Academies have them, because that's cool, that's a nice throwback, it's a fun little joke, and I appreciate it. Like, as long-term fans, you're like, oh, they threw in a reference to the beginning, and that's warming, you know, that's comforting. Obviously, also, we don't know if the events at the end are the next day, because that doesn't make any sense, because Crow's travel time would be longer than that. But again, we get the idea that for the first little while that they're here, people are in denial, people are trying to figure things out, at some point, Crow arrives, and at some point, Raven arrives, and we haven't got that explained, and that would be really interesting to be explained. I would really, really enjoy if one of these Beyonds had a Raven focus, just how she dealt with Yang's disappearance, if she realized that, and, you know, maybe her connection got severed with her portals and, oh, she's dead, and then when she went investigating. I've talked about this a few times in older theories of what might have happened, and then, obviously, when that connection reappears, when they walk out the portal, that's how Raven knows they're back, and she goes to them. Really cool things that could happen, but this also shows that she didn't jump to them leaving ever after from wherever she was. She was already here at Shade. And that makes sense with possibly her seeing the message that went out, RWBY's message. And that inspired her that this is the final fight. You know, this is her chance to help, to maybe redeem herself for past mistakes, that kind of thing. So that would make sense, because it seems like her and Crow are on good terms. So, yeah, we didn't see any of that. Again, if one of these isn't Raven and Crow, I'll be a bit disappointed, because I want to see that side by side. Cutting between Raven's response to everything that's happened and Crow's response to everything that happened when he saw the city go down and his, like, trip here. That'd be really cool. Because as much as I like seeing optimistic Crow in the animatic, and I do get where he's coming from, the grief he must have been in, initially at least, that unknowing, that unable to confirm or deny what happened to them until he landed here, and then finding out they didn't come through the other side. I'd really like to see that in some way, shape, or form, like in canon, before we get to where he's optimistic towards the end of the animatic. That'd be really cool, because that really feels like a character journey I would like to see, even over the course of just a few minutes, just to see how it's portrayed and see how that evolution goes. As for the content of this, like the juicy end of things, we get a few little things here. The first thing I want to talk about is the impression of Nora saying that even Oscar and Ozpin don't know where they fell, what happened to them. And I think it's interesting that at this point we have to question if that's true or not. Not that Oscar would lie to them, but in the animatic it was confirmed that their merging is getting harder and harder to resist, and both of them are fighting it really, really hard. And if that's the case, I wonder if Oz is still trying to lock away some of those thoughts. Because there's always been, speculation about his involvement in the Ever After, if he knows any of that or not. And yeah, it's interesting, because there's no way Oscar would lie to them. And if the merging's happening, you'd think he would know more. But there also could be that they're fighting it so hard because Oz doesn't want to let go of that information for whatever reason. So we can't confirm. And the other thing that leads to that is that the kids aren't brought in on what seems to be Oz's new council. Because we have, shout out, because I know there's a lot of book fans who are waiting for it, the official reveal of Theodore. So there he is. But just like Oz in the past had his round table council, Ironwood and Glinda and Crow, and at one point Lionheart, and presumably also Theodore, we now have an updated version. We have a new Inner Circle with Theodore, but also Raven and Winter and Crow and Mystery Girl. Now, obviously, they tease that could be the Summer Maiden. There's a whole range of possibilities with who that could be. Obviously, they immediately tease it's Summer Maiden, and it could be someone from the book, or it could be an unknown new character. Or, it could be anything. It could be Summer Rose, that could be her standing there, and she's been hiding this whole time. Look, there's a glint of white for an eye highlight, maybe that's silver. You could do whatever you want. Raven brought her here because she was in hiding or something. So as much as you can just speculate on that, what I do think is interesting is that this shows, despite how much you would think that Oscar would be against this idea, that the kids are being cut out again. It's back to an inner council. Yes, they're the maidens and the most senior huntsmen who've already been in the inner circle, and the headmaster. So all of that makes sense. Those are people you would have in your inner council. But everyone else who just went through all this, all of the teams, especially our main teams, are not in this inner circle. They're not being discussed with, or at least not that we see. So there's a separation happening again. And the fact that that's a thing suggests to me that maybe Oscar may not have as much control anymore, or has been convinced to lie to them for some reason that we're not privy to. Because the truth about, maidens and the relics and Salem, a lot of that knowledge is out there now. So hiding, those details aren't really relevant anymore. The only thing hiding like this does is keep any leaks from happening, right? So there's no spies sending stuff to Salem, or, someone working for Tyrion or something. But otherwise, there's no need to have your inner circle exclude people like our remaining main teams, at least, who have just gone on this crazy journey. So I do find that interesting that that's happening, and that presumably everyone else on that council is okay with that, including Winter, and especially including Crow. So the secrecy of this meeting, mixed with the explanation that Oz said that they have no idea what happened, has me doubting a little bit the truthfulness of everything. And obviously we're building mystery for this character. And that could honestly be it, that they only meet in secret to meet with this person to keep it a secret. But again, why wouldn't you want the help of all these fighters and all these guys who you have openly admitted are fully fledged huntsmen at this point and know all the secrets and are completely with you and would never leak anything? If you don't want Emerald here, that's fine. But you not wanting, Ren and Nora here, that's ridiculous. And yeah, even our, two goofy narrators, they're in on this fight. So the things that you are keeping from them is definitely a well of intrigue. So that is a good point of interest for these. In only 4 minutes, I do have suspicions about characters that we should be mostly trusting, Osborn's never fully trustful, but with Oscar in the mix, you should be trusting. But yeah, the non-explanation of Raven showing up, that's really interesting. This hooded character, and hey, who's a famous hooded character who vanished, or could be any other explanation, that is also very interesting. So I will say, for a nugget, a morsel for everyone to speculate on and to try and keep some interest in the franchise going, this did pretty well. I'm relatively impressed, and it looks really nice, for something they had to do quickly, it looks great. There is a weird edit in the middle, but I don't know, man, I'm not judging too harshly. Also, I will comment one more time that I do think tonally it was nice that, despite it starting off jokey, they did get solemn by the end. Despite all the jokes of this, that they send out the message that we haven't given up, and we hope they haven't given up either. It's an important point that even though these things are fun, and they should be fun because we're revisiting a world we might not get to touch again for a long time, that we keep the tone intact, and it did that by the end. And from at least a character standpoint, that's very consistent for these guys. Also, I don't get this reference. What is people like grapes? I like grapes. It's nice. But otherwise, that's about it. I mean, this is very short, obviously. But let me know what you think. What did you think of the reveal of Theodore? What did you think of the tone and the story beats we're getting? What do you think the future of RWBY holds? And, who do you think the mystery woman is, of course? But just a quick one, just checking in. Until next time, my name is Rigger. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.